Welcome to the Phenomenal Teacher Show. Our guest today is Joanne Brotman, who is the creator of Miss Healthy Habits and a health coach. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I'd like to start off by asking you, who was your favorite teacher growing up and what made them special to you?
Absolutely, yes. Well, someone who stands out for me was my grade 6 English teacher, Mr. Burke. And I remember he's very funny, quirky, which definitely makes any class, easier to get through. And I remember I've always been shy and didn't necessarily raise my hand in class and things like that. And even though I didn't do that, I remember him, he came around and would kind of touch base with every student and check in, and very encouraging. And so that made me feel really good in terms of still feeling noticed and, that I'm present, that I'm part of the group, even though, maybe I was shy and didn't necessarily engage with my hand up and things like that. So I really appreciated that about him. Very encouraging and supportive.
Yes, I could definitely see, especially being really shy and timid, and they still found ways to include you. So definitely stands out as a phenomenal teacher. So Joanne, tell us this journey on how you became a health coach. Is this something that you've always wanted to do?
That's a great question. Well, I've been in healthcare for a long time. I'm also a speech language pathologist, but health has always been a struggle for me in terms of weight and sometimes going to food for coping and things like that, and losing weight, gaining weight, the kind of yo-yo dieting, and fatigue and brain fogs. There were a number of things that have come up for me that I've always been trying to research and find resolutions for, whether it's with doctors, naturopaths, on my own. And so it's always kind of been a big part of my life in terms of some of these health struggles. And even noticing with, for example, sisters, my friends, that is a topic that always comes up. Often people are dealing with their weight struggle or food and things like that. So it always felt like, a topic that comes up, and it's we all joined Weight Watchers at one point, things like that. So it's just I think health is such a big, important piece of our lives and how we feel about ourselves. And so, so I wanted to do something in terms of a little more specific with working with people with health and working through some of the struggles that I've had. And, I used to kind of binge eat, and I'd say I had a sugar addiction type thing. And so by working through some things in terms of my mindset and a lot of changes with that, I was able to lose the weight that I'd gained 30 pounds at one point. I was able to lose the weight and actually keep it off and no longer have the binging and those kind of things. So that's something that's, been a big change or kind of celebration for myself that I want to share and support with other people. So that's what sort of led me to becoming a health coach, so I could support people with making those changes, changing their habits and the mindset, which is really important in terms of making some of those bigger changes in your behavior.
So let's talk about a teacher who might identify that she or he could possibly have a bad habit or formed an addiction. It could be sugar, it could be any sort of coping mechanism. And they now understand that perhaps this could be a bad habit that I formed. What is the next step that they could take after identifying that they actually have a problem?
Absolutely. So I think once you've identified, that you have a problem, having that awareness of, okay, what's really going on that's leading me to smoke or to drink or to eat, whatever the addiction is, because without really knowing what's going on underlyingly and why you're going to that food or drinking, whatever it is, then it's hard to change the behavior. So I think, sometimes it's helpful to have support to help find out what's going on. But yeah, looking a bit deeper and asking yourself, when you have that craving or that inclination to go have a smoke or to eat something, it's like, what am I really hungry for? What am I really feeling right now? And getting in touch with that and recognizing maybe smoking or food, whatever it is a way that I'm using to cope with whatever I'm feeling and to kind of keep pushing it down instead of dealing with what's really going on.
So what we're trying to find is the root cause of what maybe triggers of why you're reaching for that substance, so that we could maybe heal or treat that root cause. Is that about right, Joanne?
Yeah, absolutely. So looking at what's, like you said, triggering the need to go eating, and often we do these things mindlessly. And so we just go into the box of cookies, or we just go after work, and it becomes a habit too. So it's like after work, okay, I'm going to have a glass of wine or two to help me cope with the day. And we don't necessarily sit and pause and think about, why am I doing this, and why am I doing it every day, or any time that I'm feeling upset, or like trying to figure out what's going on. Am I feeling depressed? Am I feeling lonely? Am I feeling stressed? Sometimes we're happy and we can go to those things too. Is it a habit? And yeah, so that's really an important piece in terms of then kind of dealing with what's going on, stopping before you do that behavior, and just kind of assessing what's going on and what might be another option of something I could do in place of that as well.
Yeah, so I understand personally that breaking a habit that you formed is incredibly difficult. Are there
Mm-hmm.
any advice that you could offer teachers that, want to stop, whatever it is that their substance addiction could be? It could be something minor, and maybe they think, oh, this is not a big deal, I could stop anytime. But yet maybe they might stop for a few days or a week or two, and then they're back again in this repeated habit. So we know that breaking a habit or even replacing it with a more positive habit is incredibly difficult. So what kind of advice can you offer teachers?
Yeah, so I think it's helpful when you're going from a bad habit or an addiction to take it slow too, right? Sometimes when we try and go from 0 to 60, do make a big change at one time, that can be really hard, and then it's like all we think about, and that can sometimes lead us to failure, right? It's like, oh my gosh, I quit drinking, and then it's like, oh, I had one glass of wine, now it's all over, and you go back to the old habits. So I think by, after having that awareness, and maybe even just starting to cut down a little bit would be like a good next step as well. So if you're having 2 glasses of wine every day, could you start to have 1 glass of wine, and kind of work your way down. And then again, at the same time, kind of managing what's coming up for you that may be bringing you to the drink or the food or that type of thing. And yeah, and I think it is helpful sometimes to have something else to go to. So it's like, again, if you're feeling depressed or having a really hard day, instead of having 2 glasses of wine, could that be an opportunity to, call someone and talk to a girlfriend or a family member to, just kind of get something off your chest, to talk about it. Or if you're feeling lonely, that's a great way too to get that interaction. So those are some examples of ways that you could start to work towards it. And I think what's really important is making small changes, repeating them, and that's what's going to make a sustainable change. So again, if it's even just cutting down with whatever it is, and starting to make some progress that way and celebrate all the wins. Like, wow, I had one glass of wine all week and I survived, I did great. Celebrating all those little steps that you take instead of just that big result. Because sometimes we're all looking for that big result, right? Or of losing the weight or cutting that bad habit. So celebrating some of those things along the way is really important too.
Okay, there's something that you mentioned that I'd like to dive deeper into, and that is consistency. So you said to do it repeatedly, and that is the key here. So to form a habit, there's many different books. They say 21 days, they say 30 days, they say 40 days, so it really depends on the person how long it will take to actually form a new habit or replace it with something more positive. And can we talk about consistency and why that is so vital?
Absolutely. So I think with any behavior, when we repeat something over and over and over, that's what makes it automatic for us over time. So if you think of, you get up and you're kind of on autopilot, maybe you have a shower or you brush your teeth and you go make your coffee. You don't have to actually even think about those things anymore because you've done them consistently over and over and over, that becomes your habit or your routine, for example. So that becomes really important because, at first making a change can feel so big, right? It can feel so big and overwhelming. And by making small changes and again, repeating it over time, you can get to that bigger change that you're looking for. But I think another important piece is it can take off that mental clutter of like thinking about, oh, I have to get up and work out in the morning. That used to be a big one for me. It's like the working out felt like such a chore and it felt so hard. And then after doing it over and over and over every morning, now that becomes a part of my routine. So I can actually think about other things while I'm getting ready, setting up to do my workout. And the other thing that's so important about that is when we're having a tough day or some tough situation in our life, those habits will set you up for success because that autopilot is going to kick in and you're able to just continue, your habits ideally that will get you through your day versus when we have to think about it, when we have to try really hard and then something stressful in our life happens. It's so much easier that falls off the bend, like off the wagon type of thing. But yeah, consistency is really key in making a change. We can't really expect to do something once a week or that type of thing and make really big changes, or anytime soon.
So I love the idea of rewards. So let's say you put as your example earlier about having that one glass of wine and then celebrating with that. How do you feel about people celebrating with the habit that they are trying to eliminate? So for example, I would like to call it a healthy chocolate addiction because I love chocolate. And, before I eat it, I'm sort of like in a very happy state of mind. Like I don't eat it because out of guilt. I don't eat it because I'm, sad or anything. Like I eat it when I'm in the joyful spirit. Like I can't wait to eat it. I can't wait for it to gnaw on my tongue, get in my mouth, in my belly. So I go through this process. So rewarding myself with chocolate, let's say if I, exercised, 3 times a week or whatever my goal might be. How do you feel about a teacher maybe using the substance as a treat? Is that a good idea or a bad idea?
Well, I think when I hear the way you describe your relationship with chocolate, like you said, I hear that there's no guilt, there's no shame, and that you really enjoy it and it's pleasurable. And it sounds like, maybe it's not a concern for you if you're having it a few times a week, right? I think if it came up as a problem for you, that's one thing. But I think listening to you, I think that would be okay if you have some chocolate and, as a treat, if you feel like that's not affecting your progress, affecting your reward, like your progress or whatever you did. But on the contrary, for example, someone like, say myself, my old me, where I'd have food for lots of different reasons for coping, right? And that might be one of them, to reward me, or any of us in the afternoon. We're having a hard day, it's a 3 p.m. slump. I'm going to have like a chocolate bar, or I'm going to have a donut, things like that. When we're doing that every single day, and when it's affecting our progress and things like that, then I think and we feel the guilt and the shame. I think that's where it becomes a problem with how we feel about it. It's often more about how we feel about it than the actual action. And so I think in that case, for example, you wouldn't want to go like using food as a reward if that's happening really often and it's derailing you from your goals and feels unhealthy to you. In that case, I would say you would want to look at another non-food related award or non-wine related reward. For example, maybe you're doing the workouts, and maybe you decide, I'm going to order myself a new pair of runners or leggings or something like that as another reward for you at the end of the month, or buying yourself some flowers. So looking at other ways to do it, if I think whatever, addiction or bad habit is coming up for you and it's affecting your daily life and your progress and how you want to show up in the world.
How does a teacher know if she or he is addicted to something that needs to stop? So for example, like, let's take my example again, the chocolate. Well, I eat it daily and I just love it. And so how would I know that, hey, you know what, maybe this isn't the best for me? Like, maybe I should just stop. I mean, even the idea of me stopping to eat chocolate gets me super sad. So how do we know, is this really an addiction that I should address? Like, let's say a teacher comes home and she's like, you know what, I really want to unwind, and this is the way I like to do it, and it lets me sleep better at night, or whatever it is that they formed in their excuse. Like, I don't really see it as an issue or a problem. So how do we know if it's a true issue that we need to address?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I think probing a little bit more and asking what might be, what's causing you to eat that. And like you said, for you with the chocolate, for example, it doesn't sound like there's anything that's triggering you or anything. You just enjoy the chocolate and you enjoy it every day. And so I would ask you, or the teacher that you mentioned who comes home and maybe is having wine, is that affecting your day? Is that affecting what you want to do in the evening? Is that affecting your relationship with your kids or your family? Is that affecting your ability to get up in the morning? Is that affecting your ability to, again, show up as your best self when you're teaching the next day? And then, like I said, there's kind of a tough area, because some people may think they can have a few drinks every day and actually feel like they're functioning well. It's not affecting their daily life. And so maybe it's not a problem. I think in other cases, someone might be in denial too of maybe how often they're actually doing that habit, and maybe losing sight of like how it is affecting their day or their energy. Sometimes we don't really know until we take it out. I hear a number of people, for example, they might choose to take out alcohol altogether, and they feel like their lives, even if they were just drinking socially or a little bit after work, and they feel like their lives are completely changed, how their brain function and being able to get up, and their energy and their moods and all sorts of things like that. So I think, I think often it has to come from the person. So if the teacher is starting to wonder or get curious about, is this a problem? Like, am I going to this for maybe the wrong reasons? Because like I said, I think it's one thing to enjoy something, and if and I do have a lot of clients too that they'll have a little bit of chocolate every day, or sometimes dark chocolate, and that'll kind of satisfy them too. But again, it doesn't throw them off course from their goals. So Yeah, so I think it's important for the person usually to identify, maybe this isn't what I want to be doing. Maybe I could be handling this differently.
Let's talk about coffee. So this is an issue that I know a lot of my colleagues would have a cup of coffee, at least one, every single day, Monday through Sunday, 365 days a year. And so, they're talking about, or when I bring up, why you're drinking all of this coffee, they say it's a habit. It lifts them up. Provides them energy. But honestly, I think coffee is a huge substance addiction. And sometimes when my colleagues try to stop drinking coffee, they would get symptoms like headaches or migraines or withdrawal symptoms within their body. And I consider that a serious problem. Can we talk about coffee addiction?
Absolutely, because you're right. I could see that being a big one for teachers, wanting to set themselves up for success is what they're thinking with their boost of energy, or maybe drinking several cups of coffee to get through the day. So the thing about caffeine is it is very, very acidic, and it's very taxing on our organs. It's very dehydrating as well. So I think for people keeping in mind, and again, everyone's experience is going to be different, but keeping in mind, do I want to rely on a substance for my energy, for that boost? And like you said, it is addictive, and there are those withdrawal symptoms when people maybe come off that. So for example, I have a cleanse that I do with clients called the Total Body Reset, and that's one of the things that are removed from the diet. And then some people choose not to bring it back in, because if they're eating the right foods and the right balance, doing some other things that might support their energy, and recognizing, I don't really want to be reliant on a substance. And like you said, it really is addictive, and it's not the best for your body in that case too. But everyone's different, and I think it would be kind of about weighing those benefits and those risks or things like that. Something for people to consider.
Now, do you notice when your clients go through the detox process that maybe coffee has some physiological effects on them that they didn't foresee or predict happening?
Yeah, because sometimes when they try reintroducing it, because like I said, they'll detox or cleanse for a period of time, and then when they reintroduce it, sometimes that can actually bring on headaches, or that they can realize that it's really dehydrating to them, and recognize how reliant they were. And often during the cleanse process, where they're eating really healthy whole foods, they, like one of the clients who just finished the cleanse, and she was telling me, like, I don't know if I want to go back to coffee, because I actually felt I had good energy. She was starting back up to work with this whole COVID situation, and so she was a bit worried about her withdrawal symptoms during the time, but she was pleasantly surprised that she actually felt good. Her energy was sustained throughout the day, and she was eating well. And so she doesn't necessarily want to go back to coffee for that reason, that she recognizes that there's other ways she can support herself with having the energy. And yeah.
So when we are dehydrated, what kind of symptoms would we experience? Because teachers, if they're drinking coffee, they're like, well, it's liquid. So liquid obviously is, essential to my body, because my cells are made up of water, and there's water in that coffee, right? So let's talk a little bit about dehydration.
Yeah, for sure. And you're right, I do hear that a lot, where, tea or coffee, people are like, they count that as water, when in fact it's like you probably would want 2 glasses of water for the 1 count of a cup of a coffee, for example. So yeah, so some signs that you might notice that you're dehydrated would be if, for example, if in your urine it's darker yellow type thing, you want it to be more clear towards the clear end. So that's one way to see, am I drinking enough water? For myself, it's like noticing your skin and your lips and things like that. It might be dry, your eyes, that type of thing. So those are some of the common things that you'll notice in terms of, feeling dehydrated. Some of the other signs that you may not realize, for example, is I have a class or a webinar that I do, how to kick the sugar habit. And one of the things is talking about one of the solutions to kicking the habit is recognizing that sometimes our signs of actual cravings are actually because we're dehydrated. So sometimes we have no idea that that's, an issue for us. And so we go to food because we think, or sugar because that's what we're feeling. But in fact, that can be another sign that you're not drinking enough water. So for anyone who is struggling with that, by increasing your water intake, that can also support with like reducing cravings and things like that.
Let's talk about the quantity of water. Is there a special formula, for example, based off of your height and your weight, that you could determine how much actual water that you need per day?
Yeah, absolutely. So there is. So if you take your weight in pounds, so let's say you're 150 pounds, and you divide that by 2, so that's 75, and then you turn that into ounces. So it'd be 75 ounces. So if we round it up, 80 ounces, and so that would be about 10 glasses of water per day. So that's a quick, easy formula that anyone can use to give kind of an estimate on what would be a good water intake for them.
That's great. That's an easy formula. And teachers, we could do that mental math, right? When we're teaching math classes, and we could practice that with our students too, so that they know how much water they should be drinking during the day. Now, as we wrap up our conversation together today, what is one thing a teacher can do today in order to form a better habit?
Well, I think making a decision of what's important to change for them. So it's like, what do I want to change? Do I want to get in a little more physical activity? Do I want to drink more water? Do I need better sleep so I can, last throughout the day teaching? And whatever that goal is for them is just breaking it down into pieces and just starting with the first step. So for example, if we talk about, I want to start increasing my water today, if someone only has a couple glasses of water, to go from 2 glasses to 10 glasses is a huge stretch. So something they could do right away would be like, I'm just going to go up to 3 glasses. And, if I could go up to 3 glasses this week, next week 4 glasses, and, increase it in increments. So that way it's achievable, realistic, and manageable to work to whatever goal is. Or going to bed earlier. Say you want to go to bed an hour earlier. Is that realistic? Often that's hard to go from, go to bed from 11 to bring it to 10. So you just start at 10:45. Can you bring it to 10:45 and work up to 10:30 after a week? So just one small change at a time that's going to move you forward towards that goal.
Well, thank you so much, Joanne. I really enjoyed our conversation today, and I'm sure that our phenomenal teachers have learned so much about our habits, our healthy habits and not so healthy habits, and how we could replace that. How can they find out more about working with you?
Absolutely. So I do have a website. It's misshealthyhabits.com. And I also have an email if anyone has questions or anything that's come up, misshealthyhabitscoaching@gmail.com. And I wanted to offer for your listeners, if anyone is struggling with, the unwanted weight, with energy, or like you said, trying to break a habit, wanting to create new healthy habits, but that are lasting and sustainable, I do offer a free 60-minute lose weight and double your energy discovery session. And so they can find that on my website, where you could book a session through there. And I also have a free ebook called How to Lose Weight When Nothing Else is Working. So if anyone's interested in that, they can shoot me an email with the subject free ebook and just put your name and send it to misshealthyhabitscoaching@gmail.com, and I'd love to share that with you.
Well, thank you again for being on the Phenomenal Teacher Show.
Thank you, Diana.